My name is Tom Epperson. I'm the president of InnerWill Leadership Institute, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about luck companies. And my goal is to help you have some practical tips of how you can transform your own organization through values, leadership, and process using the luck story. So in 1923, Charles Luck II opened the Sunnyside Granite Quarry. At the time, it was built to provide businesses in Richmond with aggregate materials for construction, buildings, roads, bridges. And nearly 100 years later, it's become the largest family-held aggregate company in the United States. And so we're currently in Generation 3, moving into Generation 4. Charles Luck III has passed on the business to Charles Luck IV, Charlie, and Charlie is now helping to develop Richard Luck as his successor. Richard Luck also happens to be the grandson of Richard Petty, and so you've got two family businesses represented in Richard, who is a fantastic future CEO. And so within our business, we have three main parts of the business: Luck Stone, Luck Ecosystems, and then Luck Real Estate Ventures, as well as two nonprofits, Luck Companies Foundation and InnerWill, the organization that I have the honor of leading and running. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit about our story and how we came to this point. And it really starts with a problem. So back in the 90s, we had tripled in size, tripled in revenue, tripled in geographic footprint. We're primarily located through the Southeast. And we got big fast because the construction industry was booming. And at the same time, as the business got really complex, we could no longer run it the way we ran it. In Charles Luck III's day, he was at the top of the organization. He had one of his lieutenants. He would say jump. Everybody would say how high. And it was really easy and straightforward to run. Now, as the business grew, we could no longer run it that way. And so we had to figure out how to both meet the needs of our customers as grow this growing in complexity business. And so we decided to decentralize. So Charlie Luck came into the business and took over the reins from his father. We established several additional vice presidents. We moved them closer to our customers in different regions. But the problem was we didn't think about the culture, and we didn't think about what it would do to our leadership. And so pretty soon we started fighting. We were fighting over customers. We were fighting over resources. We were arguing with one another. You would get into a meeting room and make one decision, and then out in the hallway, you'd make another decision, and then out in the bathroom, you'd make a third decision, and then whoever left the parking lot last would get the final say. And so this grew in time until the business became really fraught with conflict, and we had spun the culture out into pieces. And so one of the great parts about being part of a family business is when the family decides they don't want it to be that way anymore, you can change it. And so they did. So we started looking for different solutions to this problem. And originally, Charlie wanted to fix his leadership team. And I don't know if you've ever been a part of a fixing project, but it doesn't work very well. It was a little bit like bullets bouncing off of Superman's chest, where we bring in one set of consultants and we kick them right out. We try one new training plan, we kick it right out, or we'd stop using it. Until finally, we went to some of our big partners in Caterpillar and said, we're trying to transform our business. What do you think? And they said, you know, there's a family-held business, one of our dealerships out of Texas, that you should go talk to. They're doing this thing called values-based leadership. Maybe they've got something that can help. And so we go down to Texas and we bring in one of the Holt family's executives. So imagine we're based in Richmond, Virginia. We bring in this guy from Texas. He comes in, he's got the bright, shiny boots with the pointed ends. He's got the big belt buckle, all hat, no cattle. And all of our executives are sitting around the table. And at that point, we've been fussing and fighting and really hated each other for a number of 5 or 6 years. And so this executive from Holt Cat comes in and says, all right, I want you to write down everything that's wrong with this company. And as you can imagine, they had hated each other and were busy fighting. And so they just had page after page after page of things that were wrong with the company. And he gave him about 2 minutes, and then he pulls $20 out of his pocket and says, $20 to anybody who wrote me at the top of their list. And so now, not only did they hate one another, they also hated this guy from Texas. But what he did was he was literally the first person to hold up the mirror and say, if you want to do anything different in this business, if you want to change how this business operates, if you want to lower conflict, if you want to transform this culture, then it starts with you. And he was the first person to hold up that mirror and help us see ourselves clearly. And that was really the beginning of our cultural and leadership transformation within the business. And that change has absolutely started with us. So the first thing that we decided to address was the culture. And so our organization's mission is to ignite human potential. In other words, we're in the people business. Now, we're a stone company. We take big rocks, we make them smaller, we dig big holes in the ground. So this idea that our job is to ignite human potential doesn't seem to make sense on the surface. But once you dig in and sort of peel it back, you realize that in any business, you're in the people business. And in any business, your people really are your greatest assets. It's not the equipment, it's not the real estate, it's not the product, it's the people. And we discovered that early on as we began to work on our culture. And so the way that we decided to get our culture aligned was that we were going to start with this really compelling mission. Now, when you think about igniting human potential, what that really means is that we all have dreams. Right? All of our associates, whether they're hourly blue-collar workers driving trucks the size of your house, to our accounting folks, to our executives, to the CEO, all have dreams. And our job as leaders is to help our folks achieve those dreams. Sometimes they need a little push. Sometimes they need some really tough feedback. Sometimes they need an opportunity. Sometimes they need someone to open the door. And yet, we as individuals, we still have to walk through that door when it's open. And as leaders, our job is to look for those doors to open for people and help them walk through it. And so the way that we take that mission and turn it into action is through our values, which really help us define our culture. So we've got 4 values: integrity, commitment, creativity, and leadership. And we use those to make business decisions. We use those to drive our strategy. We use those to really decide how we're going to operate in the world. So for example, when we first put these values into place, we realized that how we go about acquiring new properties didn't line up. For example, in the mining business, when you go into a new community, you'll often use a straw man to purchase land. And then pretty soon before the community knows it, you permitted a site and they don't get a say. And we decided that because we value integrity and we value leadership and we're committed to the communities that we operate in, that we were going to change that practice. And so we stopped using straw men and we started coming into communities and saying very honestly, hey, we think we can add value to the community. We want to bring a quarry to you. What do you think? Let's talk about it. And in some cases, that strategy has worked very well, where we've been able to permit sites that we otherwise wouldn't have. In other cases, it's cost us new operations. And yet we're so committed to our values that it's one of those decisions that we're going to keep doing. Now, you can't transform a culture without leadership. And so with that first conversation about what we needed to work on, we realized that if you're going to transform the culture, you have to have a set of clear values. If you're going to have a set of clear values, you've got to have the leadership to back it up. And so ever since 2003, when we first started this journey, we've been working not only on our culture, but on our leadership horsepower, our ability to put that culture into place. And so when we talk leadership, what we say is that it's values-based leadership. And the way that we define values-based leadership is living, working, leading in alignment with your core values, those deepest held beliefs that you have, and helping others to do the same. And for all of our leaders, no matter whether they're the CEO or whether they're driving a loader or whether they're in a truck or whether they're blasting in a pit, we expect them to lead because we believe that leadership is a choice, not a title. It's something you do. And it doesn't matter whether you're a foreman or a supervisor or whether you're a frontline worker or you're in accounting, we have the same kinds of expectations for you to make those leadership choices, to try to help the people around you have just a little bit better day, be just a little bit closer to reaching their potential. Now, as you would imagine, it took us a long time to figure out what leadership looked like in a big blue-collar manufacturing environment. And so we had a lot of experiments. Like early on, we realized that, you know what, you can't lead people if you don't care about them. So we had to figure out, well, what does it mean to care about people? And do we have to care about everybody or just the people we like? And so in a quarry business, how do you show somebody that you care? So at the time, I was working in the business. We were wrestling with this leadership question. And my boss was a big macho guy, great suits, really focused, really, sort of manly and tough. And I was going on vacation. And I get home, and on my porch, there's a package. And I open up this package, and it's a dozen roses. And then there's a card. And I open up the card, and it says, "Have a great vacation. Love, Mark." And so I got out my flip phone, and I called my boss, Mark, and I said, "Mark, never care about me again." Because that was not what caring looked like to me. Now, we've all evolved a lot since then, and it's really easy for us to care about one another in the business. But at the time, we had to figure out, what did that mean? And so what we've done over time is really develop 5 practices of values-based leadership that allow us all to put these values into action. And the first really starts with awareness, i.e. working on yourself, knowing how you're wired, knowing what's important to you, knowing what you care for. Then it's about potential. So realizing, what impact do I want to have as a leader? How do I want to leave other people? What's my purpose? Why do I walk this earth? What's the best version of me? The third is about relationships. So being able to adapt our approach to be more effective with others and strengthen and build trust with the people that we're trying to lead. Building commitment, not compliance. The fourth is about taking action. So making hard choices, being courageous, running towards the fire versus away from it. Making intentional choices that align with who we are and the impact we want to have. The fifth practice is all about reflection. So taking the time to think and ponder, am I making choices that align with who I want to be? What kind of impact am I having on others? What feedback am I getting on the world, and how can I use it? All in an effort to work on myself so that I can be more of service to others, so I can have that positive impact and help them reach that potential. To give you an example, there's a young woman in the previous slide named Katie Kozlowski. Katie runs one of our largest sites in Atlanta, and we've owned it just for a few years now. And so when Katie has to lead in that organization, she's got to move that culture. She's got to bring different groups of diverse associates together. She's got to teach them about our safety practices and our operational practices and how we do business. And so every single day, Katie has to come into work and try and have high awareness, help ignite the potential of her associates, help build relationships and trust, take action and be really courageous in her choices, as well as reflect on whether she's being effective or not, as she considers feedback. And so a story like Katie's is a story of all of our associates, of how can we be better leaders in the service to others. The third aspect of this cultural transformation is all about process. You know, we're a company filled with mining engineers and process-oriented folks and operators. And so process is incredibly important. And it has to be aligned with both the culture we want to create and the strategy that we want to achieve. And so when you think about process, you really start with the business's strategy. And in our business, we say that stone is not the start, or stone is just the start, rather. So it's our ability to have a customer-focused strategy where we try and understand our customers' businesses, we try and help make them successful, we help them reach their potential. And in doing that, it takes a lot of leadership from our folks in the field, salespeople, ops folks, no matter what. Engagement is another pretty important metric for us, and it's how we measure how our folks are feeling about the organization, and do they have the tools that they need. Hey Group, the group that does our engagement surveys for us, has scored us in the low 90s, which means that 90-some% of our associates are highly engaged and highly enabled at work, which puts us among the best in the United States. We're pretty proud of it, but we've also had to work really hard on it. Like some of the feedback that we tend to get from our associates is they're worried that we're going to punish them for being honest, or that they struggle with feedback, or that they worry about work-life balance. And those are the kinds of issues we've had to tackle on this cultural journey. When it comes to aligning processes, your people processes are incredibly important. So how you hire people, how you fire people, how you reward people, linking any kind of bonuses to individuals' work that they do. For example, a few years ago, we decided to give some pretty big checks to folks who were showing a lot of individual leadership. And we thought, man, these hourly associates are going to love to get this big check that rewards them for being great leaders. And the minute that we did it, our associates backed up and they said no, and they rejected it. They didn't want other people to know they'd won. And the reason was we'd spent so long helping them focus on being in teams that they didn't want to be recognized individually. And so we had to backtrack and figure out what's a better process to incent the kind of behaviors that we want. When it comes to this kind of culture work, development is really important and succession are really important. because you want all your people processes aligned with the culture that you want, the strategy that you're trying to execute on, and you got to do the hard work, the work on yourself and the work on developing others in order to help them build the tools and skills they're going to need to do so. So I wanted to give you some walkaways, some things to think about that you can apply within your own organizations as you tackle this idea of transformation and values-based leadership. So the first lesson is all about culture, keeping it simple. Simple language your folks are going to use. You don't need a $3 word when a $1 word will do. Keep it simple and help people understand how it applies to them. If your workforce is blue collar and hourly, help them see how to use their values every single day on the job. If your workforce is out in the field or heavy technology users or researchers, again, the same thing applies. Keeping it simple and understandable. Second, you got to model it. The most important thing you can do as a leader in the organization is to model what you want. Because people, you're always on stage as a leader and they're watching what you say and they're listening to what you do. And so you want to make sure that the audio matches the video every time you're in front of them. The third piece is you got to talk about it. Talk about the culture. Help them see how it applies. Help them think about what the culture looks like and it doesn't. Storytelling is a really great way of reinforcing that culture. The fourth piece is you have to use it intentionally to make everyday decisions. It's got to be more than just words on a wall. It's got to be actionable so that people can see it no matter where they look. Let's talk about a few lessons in leadership. You got to set the bar high because your organization is limited by your leadership's capacity. And so you should expect the most out of folks. When we first started this journey, we had 12 executives. At the end of the first year, we had 9 executives. Because some folks either aren't committed to working on themselves as hard as they need to, or they lack the skills to do so. And so you should expect the most out of your leadership. And to this day, we've been doing this work for almost 20 years now. We're still really hard on our leaders, especially at the executive levels. You got to choose your leaders. Be thoughtful about it. A lot of organizations will pick the best salesperson to be the sales manager. And really, when I say choose, you want to choose for leadership. There's an old saying that says, when we're young, we get hired for our technical skills, and then we get promoted for our problem-solving skills, and then we get fired for our people skills. And so when you're thinking about leaders, you got to choose the ones who are equipped and capable and want to lead. The seventh idea is you got to develop your folks. Nobody comes perfect out of the womb. We're all messy works in progress. And so our job as leaders is to develop more leaders. We got to mentor them, we got to coach them, and we got to invest in them. And finally, you got to keep them engaged. So your high-performing, high-potential folks, give them projects that keep them mentally engaged, emotionally engaged, give them the real work. For example, we just charged 25 of our high potentials of going through and developing our strategy for the next 5 years. Of course, our executives are going to approve it, but giving them the chance to do the research, do the work, do the financials, do the analysis, and figure out where we're going is incredibly important, and development. And finally, let me talk about a few lessons in process. Focus on people. Your people are your greatest assets. It's a cliche, but it's true. You've got to help align them, which means leading with a vision, helping them understand, and aligning processes so that they fit your strategy you want to achieve as well as the culture you want to create. And it's the what and the how, not just the what. So for example, in our own business, we had to help our hourly folks understand how they can act on our values in the course of doing their jobs. We had to change our sales model so that it better fit the culture we wanted to create, as well as the leadership skills we were giving our folks. And then when we developed a customer-focused strategy, even though we're in a commodity business, we needed to have processes that underpin that. And then finally, it's more than just the score. And we, as an organization, had to move beyond just reading the scoreboard and saying that's all that counts. When we had to really help people understand that, yes, we need to be profitable. Yes, that matters. But our job is to do well, to do good. We run a successful business so that we can make a positive difference in the lives of our folks. And so finally, I want to leave you with just a couple of stories. The first is about me. So I was a part of the organization in the middle of all this transformation. And I was a young father. And so I've got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old now. And so when my 15-year-old was a baby, 6 weeks old, I'm feeding him Sunday morning. My wife comes down the steps. She's got a big, strong personality like me. And she says, "Don't do it that way." And I stop. And normally we would have fight. Normally that would have been an invitation to raise our voices, to really bang heads. And I paused just long enough to think, okay, what would I do at work? Well, I'd lead different. And so I look at her and I say, honey, all I want to be is a great dad and a great husband. And when you yell at me, all I want to do is fight. And I don't. And my wife, that strong, independent woman, bursts into tears. And she says, I haven't had a shower in 6 weeks, and I'm so tired. And you are a great dad, and I want it to be different. And that was really the beginning of a change at home for us. That's why we do this work. Not just to make more money, not just to have better relationships with our customers, but to become better people, both at work and at home. Because leadership doesn't stop just at work. It goes home with us. It goes out into our communities. Sort of a final story is about today. You know, a lot of us are facing economic challenges. We're facing societal challenges. We're facing a pandemic. And it's really hard. And a lot of our businesses have been negatively impacted. And our families have as well. 2008 was not that much different. The construction business cratered. Our business cratered. We had to cut the company in half. And at the same time, Charlie Luck, who owns the business, got sick. And he was sick for almost 10 months and nearly died. Meanwhile, we stabilized the company and Charlie got better. And when he was sick, he had a chance to ask those big questions. Why am I here? Why is this happening to me? I'm okay if God takes me, but if he doesn't, then what am I going to do different? What's the company going to stand for? And when he got better and he came back into the business, he said, the company has to stand for more than just making money. We have to make a positive difference in the world. I don't know how we're going to do that. Go figure it out. And so the one thing that we're good at, rather than just taking big rocks and making them smaller and digging big holes in the ground, was this leadership stuff. So he said, what if we do that? And he said, great, go do that. And that led to us creating InnerWill, my organization, which exists to make a positive difference in companies, both for-profits and nonprofits, family-held organizations, and beyond, and to help them reach their potential. And so I just want to thank you for the time today, allowing me to tell you a little bit about Luck Company's story and a little bit about our passion for family business, and to maybe help you learn some practical tips about how you can transform your organization and make a positive difference in the lives of the folks that count. Thank you.